So ya thought ya might like to go to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to the Arch Advocate podcast. I appreciate you showing up. I'd love it if you hit subscribe. Hey, if you're new, maybe you just tuned in because you saw my little video that I put on Twitter or the one I did on Instagram, inviting you to come join us on the show. Come help us figure this whole thing out. Welcome to the show. This is a daily podcast, Monday through Friday, that is the intent of it is for it to be user interactive, right? I want you to, not just like a call-in show, I want you to participate, right? Like if you've got thoughts, if you've got, perspectives, I don't want to hear from you for a minute and a half, right? I want to talk to you for a half an hour or an hour, you know what I mean? Whoever you are, whether it's, if it's some of the OG, the original crypto creeps like Todd Milligan or Fat Sacks or Bad Wolf or whatever. Like if you want to come on the show and talk and just, maybe you've got some theories, maybe you just want to vent your frustrations, whatever, man, come on the show. Let it be all of us. But what this show is about is like, listen, you are not alone. Whoever you are, the rest of us feel it too. We're all looking around going, when did the world lose their minds? When did everybody start going so crazy? Like just that whole, just the tension, if you will. Like when you're just looking around and you're like, how is this going to resolve itself? How is this going to get fixed? This is nuts. I just want you to know, like, me too, man. Hashtag me too. Pound me too. Right? Me too. Like, I'm just looking around going, but boy, this is really weird. This is really bizarre. And so what this show is about, because there's a lot of shows. There's a lot of podcasts that you should be listening to, right? You should be listening to the Jocko podcast. And that podcast, for the most part, is really about you. Like, how to be a better version of yourself. Right? You should listen to the Adam Carolla podcast because that guy, the way that guy conceptualizes, the problems that he sees is very funny, very comedic. And what's funny is like if you listen to what he's actually saying, there's really nothing funny about it, but it just comes off as humorous. And I think we all need that. You know what I mean? Like humor, those chemicals that are released in your body when you're laughing or chuckling or whatever, it's like, those chemicals are there to help you think, right? To help keep you objective and to not get all stressed out because, the more you're stressed out about something, the lower your brain has the ability to sort problems and solve problems. And so you get that dose of laughter and that, you laugh a little bit and it relieves the stress and boom, your mind starts thinking more clearly. I think I did a whole podcast on it, or at least a pretty good segment of it. Is like you have to keep a sense of humor. This is one very deep. When we see comedians that are turning far left so that they can keep getting their Netflix deals, they keep getting their sitcom deals, and all that sort of thing. Like, listen, that is in my mind. That is actually that's actually a huge problem. It's a huge problem. Because now it's like, now you're not letting people laugh anymore. You're not making people laugh. Richard Pryor used to get up on stage and say the most racially offensive things so that people in the crowd could laugh about it. Black people and white people. And they would all sit there, like white people would sit in Richard Pryor's concerts and they would say, Richard Pryor would say something horrible about white people and they would laugh and they would be like, oh, he knows. Like Chris Rock, before he turned into a weirdo, like, remember that? I love black people, but I hate niggas. You know what I mean? Remember that Chris Rock skit? Right? Like there was a lot of white people in there that were like, oh, I get, me too. Like you need to have laugh because it alleviates the stress of the problem. It's like when you're trying to defuse a bomb. That's very stressful, right? And the more stress you're under, the less effective you are, which is a hell of a conundrum when you're trying to defuse a bomb, isn't it? Well, racial tensions and the battle of the sexes and the tensions that come with that and and political tensions and all that's like, dude, you need to be able to laugh about it. Right? Like, Lenny Bruce or George Carlin, right? You go back and listen to some of the early George Carlin one, because his work kind of petered out there at the end. But you listen to some of his early work, his political stuff, and it was like he was saying some very profound truths, but he was making people laugh at the same time, and that's how you get through it. That's how you keep a clear mind. And so you need to listen to Adam Carolla, right? His podcast every day, Monday through Friday, because when he starts talking about the times that we're in, it's like, yes, you need to get perspective, but more importantly, like, you need to be able to laugh. It's going to help you and me get through this with a sound mind. You need humor to maintain a sound mind. And when people are up there, there's a new Netflix comedy special where it's just some fat lady on stage talking about rape is when a man touches a woman that she didn't ask for, and then people start laughing. It's like, well, that's not funny. That's not funny. Yeah, and furthermore, you haven't said anything. Like, there's nothing profound or funny about what you've just said. Like, you are stifling people's ability to laugh at these horrific things. Just like the guy who's trying to defuse the bomb. It's like, dude, we have a huge bomb to defuse, and you're taking away the humanity's ability to maintain their sound mind. That's a big, big problem. Sarah Silverman, God, she was a really funny. I used to love Sarah Silverman, even though like she says some really awful things about Christianity or whatever. Like, the rest of her work, it was like quirky and funny and sassy and whatever. I used to love her, but now it's just like she's just up there talking about Donald Trump and Patton Oswalt. I used to love that guy's comedy, and now he's just up there talking about believe women, and he's going out. He had this tweet 2 days ago to Lindsey Graham where it's just F you, F you, F you, F you. It's like, dude, you're not funny anymore. And also, I think you're a dwarf, and you probably killed your ex-wife, right? Like, it's like these people aren't funny anymore, and it's like I'm not offended by that. I'm offended by the fact that it's like, dude, you had a responsibility. Like, your place in this world was comedy. That's a holy thing. The ability to craft stories and make people laugh about the horrors of day-to-day life, like, that's a holy thing. You're like a priest, and you have committed, the unpardonable sin. You've committed blasphemy, right? You've blasphemed the name of the comedian, because now there's there's Owen Benjamin, there's Nick DiPaolo, and even Nick DiPaolo's stuff, man. There's sometimes some of the stuff he says is like, whoa, that's a strong cup of coffee there, Nick. You want to tone it down a little bit there, guy? Like there's guys that have refused to go along with the party line, and thank God for them. But it's like, dude, if you want to find out who those people are, you're gonna have to already know who they are, because like if there's somebody coming into they're just finding their love of comedy, their love of stand-up comedy. If they're just coming in right now, it's going to be it's going to be a whole different proposition for those people to find out, like, oh no, there's this guy named Nick DiPaolo who's been doing this for 30 years. And there's this guy, Owen Benjamin, who's been doing this for 20 years or whatever. You're not going to hear about them because they're not on Netflix and they're constantly being censored on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, that's a threat. Wow, I kind of went off there. Hey, by the way, if you're new to the show, that happens quite a bit, right? What this show is about, let me just get back to that. The purpose of this show is to approach these problems in the way, with the tool that I bring. Adam Carolla has what he brings. Owen Benjamin's show has what he's got what he brings. Jordan Peterson has what he has. Joe Rogan, whatever, everybody has their thing. Everybody has their unique thing to bring to the table, so that we can have a tool chest full of different kinds of tools for us to get through this time. And the chest that holds all these tools will always be community. It will always be community. People, none of this works. We are not going to get through this without community. That is the most important thing. We have to talk to one another. We have to stay in contact with one another. We have to coordinate together. And we have to be humble together. Right? Humility is going to be another huge part of this. But what I bring to the table is looking at all of these things using a pragmatic approach to spirituality. Pragmatic spirituality. Those are two words that do not belong to back in any sentence. Spirituality, man, right? The unknown, the unknowable, the unseen, right? The unseen world that is just behind what you can see. How do you approach that pragmatically? Well, I do. And I can explain it. And I have my way of explaining it. And if you want to disagree with me, I say fantastic. You call in or you write in, you go onto my website and you write me an email and say, hey, I would like to dispute something you said. Perfect. Perfect. I love debate. I love arguing. Like arguing in the sense like how lawyers argue. You know what I mean? Like not like a fight, but like arguing. You know what I mean? I love going back and forth. Everybody that's close to me in my life, we argue. That's one of the major tenets of all of my friendships is I like people that are sharp enough to argue with me and don't get all butthurt. You know what I mean? They don't get all, the fur doesn't start to fly. It's like, well, I believe what I believe. You believe what you believe. Let's talk about it. Pragmatic spirituality. Because these are very spiritual times. The demons are walking out around right in the open. And that's that concept right there is significant. For a very long time, demons have had to hide themselves. Right? But that's, again, you start talking about demons and angels and spirituality and whatever, and you can lose a lot of people, right? I know I have, right? There's been a number of people that no longer tune into the show. People that I had established relationships with, they're no longer around because it's like, yeah, you're talking crazy talk, Pete. Okay, no, I understand. I get it. These are tough things, right? They're tough things, and you may have a distaste for people who talk about things of a spiritual nature. Guess what? So do I. Right? Anybody starts talking about the supernatural, and my instinct is to be like, nah, I'm not listening to this. So if that's you, I believe me. Not only do I understand it, I appreciate it. I appreciate that quality about you because I have that same quality. If there was a clone of me saying the exact same things that I say, I would probably tune them out. I would probably tune me out. But bear with me. Bear with me, all right? Nutty times. What's going on in America and in the Western world, Western Europe and a little bit of Eastern Europe, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada? What's happening? How did we get here? What are we going to do? How is this going to play itself out? Are there going to be more dead people? Are people going to get killed? Is there going to be a revolt? Is there going to be a revolution? You know what I mean? Or will cooler heads prevail? Could go either way. These are very strange times. So on today's show, I would like to put a bug in your ear, right? Just put this thought in there, let you mull it over. I have a theory. This you guys are. Some of you might remember seeing a movie that was made in 1988. It doesn't matter how old you are. You might be 20 years old listening to this, and you weren't born in 1988. But there was a movie that was made in 1988 called The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Remember that? John Neville was the start, the great thespian, John Neville. But The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. This was a really wonderful movie, and it was purely fiction. But there was an actual guy named Baron von Munchausen. In fact, here. Named for Baron von Munchausen, an 18th century German officer who was known for embellishing the stories of his life and experiences. Right? Baron von Munchausen was a real guy. And even though there was nothing, really about that guy in that movie, let me just say this. I served in the Marine Corps. And one thing about young Marines who have not yet been to war or in the theater of battle of any sort is young Marines tend to sit around the barracks and drink beer and tell stories in the first person of wars that they could not have possibly been a part of because they happened, 50 years or 200 years before their birth. Right? That is a thing that happens. We used to do that, right? Like when I was brand new in the Marine Corps, we'd just sit around and make up stories about, being in Tun Tavern or, fighting alongside Presley O'Bannon and, these kind of guys. Like that's just a thing, and we would tell these very tall tales. Like that's just a part. Like if you've served in the military, you know that young Marines or young sailors or young soldiers we just sit around and talk BS because it's fun, right? There's nothing truly wrong with that, but that's who Baron von Munchausen was. He was a guy that was renowned, and he was royalty. Right, obviously his title was Baron, so he was royalty. But he was famous for being able to entertain the crowd with stories, very elaborate stories that had so many elements of believability in it that people were not only entertained when they were done, they were left. When they would walk away from Baron von Munchausen, they would walk away thinking like, okay, how much of that was true? Was all of that true? That was really, what I mean? I know this guy is a BS artist, but man, he really, told the hell out of that story. Why did I just tell you all this? On today's show, this is gonna be a little difficult for me because I'm gonna have to get into some pretty personal territory, but there is a disease, a mental disease, and it's called Munchausen syndrome. All right, and it has an ugly brother or sister. There's Munchausen syndrome, and then there's Munchausen by proxy syndrome. And this disease is, when I look around at what's going on in America right now and in Europe, a lot of what I see is Munchausen syndrome and Munchausen by proxy. And if you're sitting there thinking like, Pete, I have never heard of this disorder before, or I've heard of it, but I know nothing about it. Let me give you a breakdown on this. And I really don't want to reveal how close this particular mental disorder has affected my life, but it may not be avoidable, and so this show is gonna go wherever it's gonna go, and we'll see. But Munchausen's disorder is when a person fakes illness. And the reason that they fake illness is so that people will take care of them. Okay? So, you following me so far? That's what Munchausen syndrome or Munchausen disorder is. They changed it from disorder, they changed the name of it from disorder to syndrome. All right? And I don't know why, right? Either way, it's, syndrome or disorder. It's like, dude, you've got your wires crossed. That's your problem. But Munchausen's is feigning illness, faking illness or injury for the purpose of getting attention, having people come to take care of you, right? The problem is, though, is that it's not, there's another word called malingering. Now, malingering is feigning illness or injury to avoid duty or to acquire money or whatever, right? And that's different. That's lying. The thing that makes Munchausen's disease, we'll just call it a disease, the thing that makes it so particular and peculiar in its own right is that the people that are faking don't know that they're faking, right? They believe it 100%. And the typical Munchausen syndrome is a disease that is almost exclusive to women. Almost. There have been men that have been diagnosed with that syndrome, but not very many. The overwhelming majority of people that have Munchausen's are not only are they women, but they are women who were born into a house full of children, and of those children, every single one of those children were daughters. Right? So follow along here. Munchausen syndrome is almost exclusive to women. And of the women who have it, of all the people who have it, they were people who grew up in a home where there were a lot of children, and all of those children were girls. When men have it, it was the same thing, only they were the only, boy in the house. Like if there was one boy and like 5 sisters, then that would be the case. Because what happens is at a very early age, these children are put into a situation where they learn I'm sure it's all very innocent and very accidental, but they learn very quickly that if they want to have exclusive access to their mother or father, right? Because if you have 4, 5, 6 kids in a household, your parents are always going to be busy, right? If there's 5 kids in a household and only one dad, then you only get 20% of your dad's time that is allotted for the children, right? So your dad's gone, he sleeps 8 hours a day, he's at work 10 hours a day, right? He's commuting for 2 hours a day, right? You know what I mean? So by the end of the day, there's really only about 5 hours that your dad even has. And there's 5 kids. You know what I mean? So the attention that each kid is going to get is going to be it's going to be reduced, right? So what these kids learn, usually around the time that they catch their first flu, get their first fever, when you're a little kid, you remember that? You get sick and your mom would tuck you in with all kinds of blankets and she'd turn on some movies for you or, whatever. And you would get taken care of for 2 days. You would have exclusivity to your parent. And so what these kids learn, mostly women, mostly daughters, it's mostly little girls. And I'm going to get into why that is here in just a second. So, stay with it. I'm not being a sexist. I'm stating facts of Munchausen syndrome and who it affects and why it affects them. What these little girls know, right? What these girls come to understand is that if they want time with their father, right? Because mom's home all day, but dad, he's gone all day, and he sleeps all night. And he comes in the home, he's frustrated from work, it's time to eat dinner, he's got to take a shower, he's got to drive sister to her dance recital, you know what I mean? Like, it's a fight for your father's attention. What these girls learn is that if they are sick, they get dad's attention. Dad comes home, he's been worrying about his little girl all day. Comes home, opens the door, The other 4 kids come running up. Daddy, 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 daddy. Good job, son. Did you do your homework? You wash behind your ears. Now get out of my way. I need to go see my sick baby. And then that baby gets 100% of dad's time. Right? And then they get sick again a year later. Right? They get the flu once a year or whatever. They get sick a year later and boom. 100% of dad's time. And this is where Munchausen syndrome is born. It's the repetition of like, if I am sick, then I get what I want, what I truly want, from the people that I deserve what I want from. Time and attention, adoration. Adoration. That's what it is. Now, I didn't really want to get into it because I want to qualify to you like why it is that this particular syndrome, how it has affected my life personally. I am not a woman, nor did I grow up in a house full of kids. There were brothers and sisters, but it wasn't like that. Maybe I won't get into it right now, but let me just assure you that this is, let me just skip forward. And, I'll tell you. Okay, listen. I love and admire my mother. Right? My mom was a single mom in the 1970s when there were no laws that, the state... Right? The federal government was not a sugar daddy. There was no state official or law enforcement people to come in and force deadbeat dads to pay their child support. Right? That didn't exist in 1974 when my dad left his family to fend for themselves. My mom didn't have a government that stepped in and said, "Oh, we're going to make this guy, pay you, child support, or else we're going to throw him in jail." There was none of that. That didn't happen until just about the same time I turned 18, right? Which is, by then it was too late. There was no state-sponsored sugar daddy. There was, the alpha male did not turn into the state till the very late 80s, early 90s. That didn't exist. People didn't go to jail for failing to pay their child support, nor were they punished at all. There was nothing, right? And my mom raised me and my older brother all by herself, right? And she did so raising me to love books, love history. She taught me how to read using the King James Bible when I was 4, right? She had an incredible work ethic. She's very smart, my mom, let me just put it to you this way. My mom was offered to join Mensa, right? The Mensa is a club of people who are that have such a high IQ that they qualify to be in Mensa, and she was offered to be a part of that club because she is an actual genius. Like, she has a very high IQ, and she's very artistic, and she has made her life, and she has, created her life out of her ability to create art, which is not easy to do, by the way. There's a lot of missing meals that are involved in doing that, and she did it while raising 2 boys, and we never missed a meal. Never once, right? Mensa came to her and said, "Hey, you're a genius, so why don't you come and join us?" And the only reason she turned it down was because that was back during the Cold War, and she said, "Listen, I'm not going on anybody's list, because if the Russians do take over, they're going to be looking for that list first, and I don't want my name on it," right? Because they're going to be looking, they're going to be looking to get rid of all the Jews and the smart people. They don't want those people, so no thank you, but no thank you, I love my mom. And, people are flawed. All people are flawed. I have my flaws. You have your flaws. My mom has her flaws. And in the case of my mom, not very many. There's really not very many things. Literally, it's like 2 things that I can think of. Or 3, right, off the top of my head. Very few. But the flaws that she does have are doozies. Because the flaws that she has, it comes with her powerful genius. And it comes with her, she created a life out of art. And let me tell you something. When you do that, when you take your will and you impose it on this life, and you say, this is what I'm going to do with my life, and I will be successful at it, that takes a tyrannical will. It takes strength that most men don't even have, and she had it. And she taught it to me. I am, when it comes to single mother, I made this comment before, but let me just assure everybody. I'm very much against the idea of single parenting. I'm against divorce. I hate divorce. Right? That's my kryptonite, man. Talking about divorce. It's ooh, I hate that word. I hate that word. I hate the word. I hate what it means. I hate what it stands for. I hate what it's done to this country. I hate divorce. I hate it. Why did I just say that? Hold on. I was going somewhere with that. Oh yeah, because, my dad and my mom got a divorce. But, I'm very much against, that's what it was. I'm against the idea of single parenting on either side, right? If you're an atheist, nature tells us, right? Biology tells us that we, the human race, we are mate for life animals. If you're an atheist. I am not, but, whatever. If that's what you think, if you're an atheist and you think Richard Dawkins is really onto something, then clearly we are a species that is a mate-for-life species, like Alaskan wolves or bald eagles or, whatever. But as far as single mothers goes, I hit the jackpot. I had a single mother who we didn't go on welfare. My mom never hired an attorney to try to get money out of my dad. You know what I mean? She wasn't a weakling. She was strong. And she raised me and my brother, and now I'm strong. And I'm smart. And my brother is strong and smart. And you know what I mean? She did a great job. But one of the problems that she has is that she has 3 sisters. It's 4 little girls growing up in a house together. And my mom learned early on that if she wanted attention from her dad, she would get it if she was sick. All right? When, I'll just put it to you this way, for 39 years, I'm 45, so for 39 years, I have been told by my mother that she is dying. And it's always something new every 3 to 6 months. Oh, I've got the blood poisoning, and I got, whatever. It's just a thing. Now, let me explain to you. My mom is not a liar, right? When we talk about Munchausen syndrome, my mom believes. She believes it. I know that she believes it because when she tells me, I believe it, even though I know that she has this disorder. Right? When she tells me this story, I believe it, even though I know it's not true. Right? And I believe it because she believes it. So it's not, Munchausen's syndrome, it's not malingering, it's not faking. You're not sick, but you truly believe you're sick, and a lot of times these people believe it so adamantly that they actually do become sick. Right? You can heal yourself with your thoughts, and you can make yourself sick with your thoughts. And that, by the way, that's actually proven science. right? That's proven science. That's why, like, doctors and nurses and whatever, you go to the hospital, it's like they're always like super positive. Ah, you're gonna be fine. Yeah, you got a sucking chest wound. Ah, you're gonna be fine. Rub some dirt on it and walk it off. You know what I mean? Like they're super positive. Why? Because you need to believe that you're going to get well. Because it's conducive to getting well. You know what I mean? And if you don't believe you're going to get well, if you're super negative, that's not going to work in your favor. Plus medicine and all these other things. But anyways, what I'm saying is Munchausen's is something that has affected my life very dramatically, and I understand it. Right? The reason I bring this up is because Munchausen's is a mental disorder that there's no money for research on it. Nobody studies this, right? There's not a panel of doctors and psychologists and psychiatrists who are trying to figure out Munchausen syndrome. You want to know why? Because it's never caused a single death. Nobody's ever died from Munchausen syndrome, not even by accident. Right? Nobody ever accidentally drove their car into a crowd of people because they had the Munchausens. Nobody's ever died from Munchausen, so there is no research and there's very little known about it. Most of it's just speculation, right? But there's a reason why it's called Munchausen's and not malingering, right? And the reason why is because Baron von Munchausen he was such a brilliant storyteller that he believed what he was saying so much that when he told his bullshit stories, everybody else believed it. Why? Because he believed it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a powerful concept. And there's another thing about Munchausen's, the other part. Munchausen's by proxy. Now, this is where demonic stuff starts happening, right? It's crazy. Munchausen's by proxy is exclusively affects women. There's never been a single recorded case of Munchausen's by proxy that a man was suffering from. It's been 100% women. And Munchausen's by proxy is when women make either their husband or their children sick or injured. Sick by way of poisoning them, or injured some other way, which I'm not going to get into. You can look it up if you want, but it's pretty gnarly. And the reason that the mental disorder there is so that the sick child or sick husband or injured child or husband now needs to be taken care of. There is a part of the DNA in women that is different than men, where they are the caretakers. We know this. We know that men are more interested in things, and women are more interested in people. And that is what is good and right in the universe, right? But men can become obsessed with things, and things go horribly wrong when that happens. And women can become obsessed with people, and things go horribly wrong when that happens. And women have this profound ability to nurture and to care for, right? And when women don't have somebody to care and nurture for, then things can go horribly wrong. And now we enter Munchausen's by proxy, where a woman becomes so mentally ill that she injures and poisons her own child so that it will be sick, so that she has someone to take care of to that extent. Because she needs to be able to take care, right? She's a caretaker. It's in her DNA that she needs to nurture and care for something, so she damages the child so that that need can be met. Crazy, huh? Now, my mom, just for the record, just be clear, my mom does not suffer from that, right? My mom never hurt me or anything like that. But that's the crazy version of crazy Munchausen's, right? Now, as I'm looking around the United States and the rest of the world, like I said before, but particularly in the United States, well, and Western Europe. But I'm seeing that there is this this new fad, new trend in the, a new pattern in the progression of mankind as it applies to the United States, where it seems to be in vogue. It seems to be in fashion to be a victim. That's weird, isn't it? Why would somebody associate with being so weak that they would be able to be victimized? You know what I mean? That they would be allowed, that they would allow people to happen upon them. Why would somebody do that? Like, even if you were a weakling, like say if you were sick, like Stephen Hawking, right? You're in a wheelchair, like you've got all these thoughts in your head about black holes and all, stuff going on, and you're the smartest man alive, whatever. But, like you're sick, like you're in a wheelchair. Like, why would you, like, you have a choice. You can either walk around or, roll your wheelchair around asking for people's sympathy, like, oh, look at me, and look how bad my life is. Like, you can do that, and you would be justified in doing that, because truly, I mean, because he had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Like, he legitimately had a really horrible disease that wrecked his life. But instead of doing that, he was like, no, I'm still super smart, and I'm going to contribute to society by talking about black holes and mathematics and all that stuff for the rest of my life. Like, he didn't choose the victim's path. By the way, when he was alive, I had no love for Stephen Hawking. Like, I think a lot of his stuff was nonsense, but you gotta respect a guy that, like, gets dealt that shitty of a hand of cards and does what he does. Like, you gotta respect that, right? But, like, why would somebody... I've had bad things happen to me that were outside of, like, listen, we've all had bad things happen to us, like multiple bad things happen to us in our lives, and if we were truly honest, we can look back on a lot of those bad things, and probably most of them were caused by us. Like, we did that to ourselves accidentally through poor decision making and poor planning and whatever. But then there's things that happen to you that are just completely... you just get broadsided by them. They're not your fault. Somebody else did it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just completely outside of the realm of what was in your control at the time. When those things happen, like, why would you want to brag about being a victim? Why would you want that to be your identity? Like, you got your ass kicked and you're walking around parading like Hillary Clinton. For 2 years, this woman has been traveling the globe reliving the fact that she's a loser. Like, that's amazing to me. Why would you want to identify as a victim? Or these people that are like, oh, I'm transgender and I'm literally like 0.001% of the entire US population. Look at me, I'm a victim. Like, why would you want people to look at you and when they see you, they just feel sorrow? Why would you want that? But that's what it is. It's Munchausen syndrome. Look at me, like, I need attention. I'm sick. I'm helpless. I'm a victim. It's a sickness. And what's worse is they believe it. And because they believe it, other people believe it. Other people listen, belief is a transferable commodity. Right? If I tell you something and I tell you with conviction, I tell you, if I tell you something that I believe and I tell it to you with conviction, you are way more likely to believe whatever it is that I believe, and vice versa. Right? Like, belief is a very translatable, transferable commodity. Absolutely. And so these people are walking around being a victim. Case in point. I was reading an article yesterday and actually I wasn't reading an article, I'm sorry, let me check that. I was scrolling through Facebook and I was looking at one of the titles of the Young Turks. By the way, I keep Young Turks on my Facebook, as their page, because I just want to see the absolute horse pucky that they're shilling over there. But one of the things that they had was like, oh, this rape hotline has just saw a surge of over, I think it was like 54% increase in people, women calling in saying that they have been sexually abused since the Kavanaugh hearings. So you got to think about it. Like, nothing is coincidental, right? All of a sudden, an over 50% increase, right? Like, 1 minute you only have 2 things, and the next minute now you have 3 things, right? That's a 50% increase in what you had from before. An over 50% increase of women calling into like helplines or whatever, saying that they were victims of sexual assault. Why? Because they see the attention that Miss Blasey Ford has been getting, and the money, the over $900,000 of money that she's gotten. Attention and money. And all of a sudden, like, all these women see that and they're like, oh, I'm a victim too. Where's the phone number? Where's the phone number so that I can get to be on TV and I can start a GoFundMe page? Where's my attention? Where's my money? I'm one of the children too. Where's my daddy? Where's my daddy to come and take care of me? That's what that is. And all of a sudden, there's a 50% increase in victims. That's Munchausen's. That's Munchausen's. And those women, like, so what I'm saying is, like, it's so natural. It happens so naturally. They don't even realize that they're doing it. Right? Like, if you sat down with those women, like, you better believe, like, they would tell you a story and you would clearly see that they themselves believe it. Right? And this is where you have to keep objective. And this is the damage, right? This is the damage that the Democrats are doing, because it's the Democrats that are spreading this sickness, this Munchausen's virus. They are teaching people. They are encouraging people. Yes, be a victim. You're sick. You're weak. And if you just identify yourself as being sick and weak, you will get the attention that you need. That's demonic. And what's worse, Munchausen's by proxy. There's no coincidence that when the welfare state was began, and when the assault on the black community began by breaking apart the black family, which, by the way, the black family in the United States had a way better marriage record than white people did. These were people who were devout to their family and to their God. And the Democrats decided, we need to encourage divorce in these. We need to break apart these families and put these women. We need to make the state the head of the family. We need to make the state the alpha male and remove the black man. And it worked. We need to put in abortion clinics into the black neighborhoods. Did you know that over 75% of all abortion clinics, not just the ones owned by Planned Parenthood, but all of them, 75% of them are in black neighborhoods, not poor neighborhoods, but I mean, obviously the two are, sync up quite a bit. But black neighborhoods exclusively, not poor white neighborhoods, poor black neighborhoods. 75% of all abortion clinics are in black neighborhoods. I don't understand how people can't see what's good. It's like, that is clearly strategy. That is a strategy to exterminate black people. The welfare state is a strategy to exterminate the family, to remove the head of the family, the man, and in its place right? Remove the alpha, and in its place, you put bureaucracy. And you make bureaucracy and the state the head. And you make these people sick so that you can take care of them. And the Democrats have been doing that the entire time. That's why black people always vote Democrat. That's why. Because the Democrats made them sick and then they took care of them. Oh, your husband ran around on you. Oh, you never even had a husband to begin with. Some guy just came and had sex with you. Now you've got a baby. Well, here's some money. We're taking care of you. Just don't get married. As long as you stay single, you can still have these benefits. You can have the WIC. You can have the food stamps. You can have the Section 8. If you get married, no more of that. Right? It's making them sick so that they can take care of them. Is it not? Is my theory completely outside of the realm of possibility? Or am I just over here talking nonsense? We've got a nation full of people that are suffering from Munchausens. They believe that they are victims. They believe that they are sick because they see that as long as I believe that I'm sick and as long as I act sick, then other sick people, the other people that are in my circle, they're going to come and be like, oh, let me take care of you. And then they get attention. That's what they need. And it's almost always women. And if it's not, it is men who are clearly, like you can see it on their faces, like they are clearly running on very low testosterone because they keep pouring soy down their throats, which is again, scientifically proven to lower testosterone and increase estrogen. There are men that are suffering from this Munchausen's disorder too, but let's just say, they're not, the sort of, God, who's the fighter in the UFC? Conor McGregor, right? They're not Clint Eastwood. They're not John Wayne, exactly. They're betas. They're beta males that are doing this. Oh, I'm sick. I need help. I had somebody on the Young Turks, because I make funny comments on the Young Turks from time to time. I said, one second. I made a comment on the Young Turks the other day saying, man, I can't wait to vote for Trump in 2020. Some dude writes me, he goes, oh, so you're going to vote to take health insurance away from sick people? I hope you're proud of yourself. So, yeah, that's where your arguments always go. Yeah, I hate sick people and puppies and children and clean air and water. Yeah, good argument. Never heard that one before. But I clicked on his Facebook page. Sure enough, right? Sure enough, the guy's never done a push-up in his life. And looking at his bio, it's like art school, art school, art school. Right? So he's pissed, right? He's one of these people that it's like, but I went to college and Obama said I was going to make $1 million more. Exactly $1 million more than people who didn't go to college. And I'm not making anything. What's happening? You know what I mean? Like he's one of these people. Well, he's suffering from Munchausen's. Like he's a victim. He's going around, and surely all of his friends, like these are the people, right? You see, remember the screaming lady when Trump was, inaugurated, and then there's the patriarchy. Remember that lady? Like there's these people, like, well, those people have friends. You know what I mean? Those people, they have people that they hang out with, and they all have to be just like them, and they're all in a competition for attention. Why? Because they didn't have fathers. They didn't have fathers to teach them how to fight, to teach them, these women, they didn't have a father there to teach them how to appropriately receive affection from other men by teaching them themselves. They didn't, you know what I mean? Like it is a very powerful and important thing for fathers to teach their daughters, like, listen, this is what's acceptable. When you go out on a date with a boy, he has to behave just like me or else he's not worthy of you. You need to find somebody who treats you the way I treat you. Right? That's why, like, you know, in religious circles, you find men, you know, in Christianity, and I'm sure probably other ones, but it's like, you know, when the girls grow up, it's like, well, now it's time to train you how to date, right? So the sons will take their mom on a date, and the fathers will take their daughters on dates, and that's how you train them. Like, this is how we treat women. Sons, this is how we treat women, and daughters, this is how you are to be treated by men. And anything other than this is unacceptable, right? No tongue kissing, no sitting in the back seats of cars, right? Like, that's not acceptable. Why? Because I wouldn't do that, right? You're my daughter, and until your husband shows up, I am your protector. When your husband shows up, I will transfer that responsibility to him. And he had better look just like me in a spiritual sense, you know, in a behavioral sense. He better be acting just like me to treat you with respect and dignity and these sorts of things. Well, these people, these soy boys and these crazy women, they all have that thing in common. Their alpha male was the state. And therefore, they want the state to be in charge of everything. That's why they're asking for socialism. It's because these are people who grew up where the government would force their evil father, who they hated for leaving their mother, they would force that guy to cough up money to give to their mothers, and that's how they afforded the life that they were in. The state was the alpha male. So it only makes sense for those people, like, well, since the state's the alpha male, how come it's not in charge of everything? Munchausens. I'm a victim. I'm a victim, and I need attention from the state. And the state just goes along and says, okay, here's some more poison, my son. Here's some more poison in your veins. Now I get to take care of you even longer. Here's some free money that you didn't have to work for. Here's a free education that is useless, that you won't be able to do anything with. And then you'll be sick. You'll be unemployed. And then I'll be able to give you some more money. Right? Because you're useless. You're so sick that you're useless. So now I get to give you money. And I get to put you up on a billboard or a TV screen and say, look, this is my defective son. Everybody pay attention to him and give him your attention, or her. This is why you need to vote for me, because I need to keep taking care of my sick kid. Never mind the fact that I've made him sick. The fact is, he's sick. Vote for me. And on and on and on it goes. This is the sickness that I see. A woman stands up and says, Brett Kavanaugh raped me in 1983, even though everybody that I've said, witnessed it. They all said it didn't happen. They have, every single one of them, even my best friend says, lady, I don't know what you're talking about. But hey, I get to be on TV. The whole world's looking at me. I got to meet Alyssa Milano. She was a television star in the 90s. I got to hang out with famous people. I got $1 million. I got over $900,000, man. That's $1 million. I got to be on television, the TV, man. You know who else has been on TV? Tom Cruise. Do you know who else has been on TV? Leonardo DiCaprio. Do you know who else has been on TV? Alyssa Milano. Guess who else has been on TV? It's got 2 thumbs and accuses people of rape falsely. This lady. I got to be on TV. Everybody look at me. And so naturally, there was an over 50% increase in girls calling in saying, I too was sexually assaulted. What, yesterday? All of a sudden, you're now remembering that you were sexually assaulted. Really. Had nothing to do with the fact that you saw your sister getting attention. And you wanted to pull some of that attention your way. It's sick. Now that we've said that, how does that tie into the spiritual? Well, Munchausen is a very spiritual disease. It's a demon, and we listen. I talk from time to time about demons and what demons are, and if you're new to the show, demons are simply they are merchants of weakness, right? They're not scary. They're not to be feared. They are weak. That's what they sell. That's the only thing demons bring to people is weakness. So we're not to fear them. Right? They're not, like the movies make them look scary, and Dante's Inferno makes them look scary, and those sorts of writings. There is a certain amount of fear that you should have, in fear in the sense that you need to be afraid of becoming weak, right? You need to continually work on yourself and make yourself stronger. But as far as demons goes, look, demons are so weak that most of them you can get rid of them just by calling them by their name. Right? And in this case, the demon is called Munchausen's. That's its name. I'm sure it probably has a more significant name. Like, here's a tough one. You know why you see in the movies and whatnot, when people go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, they always have to start off with, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I am an alcoholic. Hi, so-and-so." You know why that's important? Why they do that? Is because they've learned that like there's power in calling something by its name. You speaking to the problem. I'm so and so, and I'm an alcoholic. The problem, and the reason why Alcoholics Anonymous has the low success rate that it does have, is because that particular demon's name is not alcoholism. Right? It has a different name, and that's why you can get rid of my point is this: you can get rid of a lot of demons if you learn its name and say it. Just like that story of Rumpelstiltskin, right? Hans Christian Andersen and the Brothers Grimm, like when they wrote stories, they were teaching tools, and the lesson in Rumpelstiltskin is like, listen, if you want to get rid of evil in your life, you have to learn its name and speak it, right? People can come up to you, like you see people coming up going, "You're a racist." No, I'm not. That word has no effect on me because there is no demon in me called racist. If I was a racist, I'm sure that word would affect me, but I'm not a racist. You can call me racist all you want. That's not me. There's no power in that. Oh, but you're a demon. You are a false accuser. Your name is false accusations. You are the accuser. Your father is the father of lies. You are the accuser. Now I've called you by name. Right? There's power in that. There's a certain amount of power in calling, learning something's name, learning a spiritual concept's name, a principality's name, or demon, or whatever it is that you want to call it. If you learn a principality's name and call it by that, you then have power over it. That's the significance of that story of Rumpelstiltskin. Learn its name. So when we're looking around and we're seeing all these people losing their minds and playing the victim, and we're seeing the Democratic Party as it applies to like the federal government and the last two Democratic presidents and the Democratic Senate and Congress, and all of these measures they've put through, just more welfare, more free stuff, more victims, more divorce, more abortion. It's Munchausen's. The Democrats are making people sick. And the sick people are addicted to the attention. And it's a demon that must be fought. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying my mother is demon possessed because she has Munchausen's. I'm not even saying that those people are demon possessed. I'm saying everybody has demons. Everybody. Me, you, we all have our demons to fight. And they're always demons that are familiars. They're called familiars. Right? There's things that I have to fight that you don't have to fight because they're not familiar to you. There are things that you have to fight that I don't have to fight because they're not familiar to me. Everybody's got their thing. Some people are alcoholics. Some people are addicted to porn. Some people, it could be anything. Some people are kleptomaniacs, right? They just can't stop themselves from stealing stuff. Whatever. Everybody's got their demons. It's all right, man. Just face it. You know what I mean? Face it and learn to call it by name. So looking at society the way it is today, can I get some response on this? Am I onto something here? What do you think? Munchausen syndrome and Munchausen's by proxy. It has infected the nation. That's the show for today. If you want to support the show, you can go on to archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com, and support the show, because this show costs me money, man, and if you want to keep it going, you need to kick down a couple of bucks. You can do that on PayPal or Patreon. Become a monthly supporter. I would appreciate it. But definitely, please follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, and hit subscribe on the podcast or the YouTube version of this podcast. That's it for today. I will be looking forward to talking to you mañana.